Thanks for having me. The most damning parts of this investigation, quite simply, was that the government of Chad, after these October 2022 protests, put hundreds and hundreds of men and boys into these large trucks and transported them for 3 days through the Sahara Desert. Men and boys were dying. Their bodies were being thrown into the desert. They were being denied water, adequate shelter, and food. Once they got to this prison in the middle of the Sahara, Koro Toro, men continued to die there. So the most damning result is the loss of life, but also the conditions of the prisons. This is a prison that's run by Boko Haram fighters on the insides. Yes, the National Army protects the outsides of the prison, but on the inside, the prisoners themselves were very much forced to be managed by Boko Haram fighters. This was a prison in which forced labor is used, and it's a prison in which isolation chambers are used frequently. Mm-hmm. We publish this now because this is a new government under Mohamed Deby. He just won his first election rather in May. And we wanted to make a call to this new government to close down a main section of this prison at Koro Toro. But also, this type of research is very sensitive. It takes a long time. We spoke with 72 former detainees from Koro Toro prison. There was a lot of issues around safety and security for these detainees. Mm-hmm. And so it took a lot of time to get the research done.
Luis, I note that you had a 38-page report on this, and it's extensive work. But I also note that the government spokesperson and also the Minister for Foreign Affairs in Chad did speak to French media denying the entire report and stating that nobody died on the way to Koro Toro prison or at the prison, and that no one else has been treated inhumanely. How do you respond to that?
To that, I say to the minister that facts are very stubborn things. We've documented the names and the photos of many of the victims that we were able to identify, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I encourage the minister to launch a real investigation into how many Chadians, people that his government are responsible for, died on the way and at this prison.
Obviously, there's a disagreement about the facts here between Human Rights Watch and the government of Chad. What should be the next step?
Honestly, at this point now, I think it's up to organizations like yourselves. I think it's up to the media to recognize that the Chadian government is saying one thing and an organization like Human Rights Watch is saying something 180 degrees the opposite. We're talking about the loss of life that the Chadian government is completely denying. And it's really going to be up to independent arbitrators like the media to step in, do their own investigation, and really reinforce whatever position they're able to identify. The Chadian media has started this, and the Chadian media is getting former detainees from Koro Toro up on the radio and on Chadian television, denouncing what the minister said and confirming our findings.
And what are your recommendations to the Chadian government? Should the Koro Toro prison be closed?
One main section of Koro Toro prison is not hospitable or humane in any regard, not only for people, but also just for basic animals. It should be razed to the ground. They also need to establish a means of communications to allow prisoners to speak with lawyers and family from this prison. The reason why this thing is out in the middle of the Sahara Desert is because they want to isolate them. But I think most fundamentally is the Chadian government needs to recognize that protest is a fundamental human right, and that protesters shouldn't be treated like terrorists, and they shouldn't be rounded up and shipped off to these terrible places. Instead, they should be allowed to peacefully advocate for the change they seek.